Here we are. Hey, Facebook, look who we got. America and the world knows Ron Josol for over almost 3 decades, Ron.
Yeah, it's been a long time. It's been basically 24 years straight. And this is the first time in my life doing stand-up comedy where I've taken over a week off. So I've never went past a week without doing a stand-up show once.
Wow.
In 24 years. So this is the first time I haven't done it in a month and a half. So it's a good break.
Yes. So what are you doing with your time?
I'm doing what everybody else is doing. You're watching Netflix. You're trying to work out at home. You're going out to the grocery store at least every 2-3 days, which is your main social life, saying hi and thank you to the customers and the employees.
Yes.
And that's it. Like I'm making videos, making memes, doing a lot of podcasts. I'm doing shows online now where a group of my friends from all over the world have put together a show where there's 6 comedians that talk about daily news, a movie or a TV show, and pop culture, like a hot topic, and something personal about the virus, or at least what you're going through. So every comic gets a chance to talk about this. It's a donation if you want, and there's over 300 to 400 people watching this once a week, every Sunday, called The Minority Report. And that's the way that we get income as comics. So, by the donations we make, we can just pay for whatever little things you need to pay for, like groceries a week or whatever.
Who runs the Minority Report?
My friend John Paul, GENPAUL. So he runs it in Canada. He's from Trinidadian descent. I'm Filipino. There's a woman that's from Jamaica, a man from Jamaica, a woman from India, another Asian comic. So, and then we have special guests every week that have a big following to help promote the show and also be part of the comedy.
Wonderful. What's the thing in your 27, did you say 25 or 27 years?
My first show was 27 years ago, but I didn't go back until 4 years later. So now it's full-time, not 23 years straight.
Okay. In your 23 years of comedy, what was the biggest thing that you're most proud of? Because you've done it all. I mean, you've been on Laughs Unlimited, talk shows, Carson Daly, like you said. I've heard your name bounced around. I'm just so thrilled that you're on here with me.
Oh, thanks. I really appreciate it. I honestly think that moving to the U.S. was the biggest accomplishment for a Canadian comic because it's really hard to move out here if you don't have any work. So it's not really the show that I've done or any specific show. Mm-hmm. It's more how I just kept trudging through this jungle of comedy and finally was able to find a base in the U.S. and move here and make money, not in my home base, because I was making money in Canada for my first 7 years, but Canada is kind of like a state in U.S. when it comes to comedy, because in comedy in a state in the U.S., like not L.A. or New York, or not California or New York, but more like a smaller state, there's not as many comedians and there's not a lot of work. So you can't really make a great living in just one state. Or you can't make a great living in comedy in just Canada. You kind of have to venture outside and use the world as your I guess the world has to be the way that you make money. You have to be able to go to Asia, Europe, Scandinavia, West Indies, U.S., Canada. So you use everything you can to make money until that time where you make money in LA and New York just because you have a big following, you have a TV show, you did a movie that was able to make enough money for you to propel that into a crowd or have followers or do some videos on YouTube. So to be able to make money outside of my comfort zone and outside of my country and outside of my city is probably the greatest accomplishment for me. To be able to make money as an artist is hard. To be able to live off it is hard. And what's harder is to leave your comfort zone where you get normally booked and make money outside of where your comfort zone is. So I think that's the biggest accomplishment I've made. But for shows specifically, that's a hard one. There's so many great shows.
What's the funniest, craziest, weirdest thing you've ever seen at a comedy show ever? That just like if anybody says, what's the weirdest thing, it pops in your head?
The weirdest thing that ever happened in comedy for me would be when I was in my second year. I had probably my favorite comic in the world was Chris Rock. And right before I went on stage, so my second year, I never told my friends I was doing comedy. I would just leave at night and come back at 12 midnight. So they'd be like, where'd you go? Yeah, you always leave every night. And I was like, I'm Batman. And they're like, all right, whatever. So 2 to 3 years later, I brought them all to a comedy club and pretended I wasn't on. I told the MC and the manager, don't pretend you don't know me. Just sit me with my friends. So I sat with my friends and I said, don't mention my name in the beginning. Just bring me up after because it was the MC was just going to bring me up as the feature, and the headliner was going to be after me. But right before they were going to bring me up, so they brought me up, and they're like, hey, your next comic coming to the stage, been doing it for a few years, he's doing well on the roster here, Yuck Yucks. Please put your hands together for Mr. Ron Josol. All my friends looked at me, and I went up and I killed. But they weren't laughing because they were so brain fucked. Right? They were just like, what the fuck just happened? So I get off, and I'm going back onto the aisle to the green room. And the next comic who was supposed to be the headliner, the MC says, this person came down as a special guest. You've known him on this. Give it up for Chris Rock. And Chris Rock passes me. And I'm like, oh my God. He went up and did his thing. And at the end, he talked to me at the green room. And then after I went back to my friends, and I was like them. They were shocked. And I was shocked because I saw Chris Rock and they saw me. So the whole ride home was just silence.
That's hilarious. Hilarious. What advice do you have for younger comics? Because a lot of seasoned comics look at these videos, and a lot of young comics look at them. So I know young comics want to hurry up and get on late night or get a Netflix or Dry Bar, but there really are no shortcuts. So what do you have to say to people?
First, and I guess the first thing I'd like to say is comedy is an ever-changing art when it comes to the show part and the business part. So the show part always changes, and the business part always changes. How's the business changed since I started? When I started, the social media wasn't there. You were booked by a comedy club booker, and that's it. They were in charge of marketing the show, and that's it. If you blew up naturally through TV, movies, or because that's how you did it before. You get on late night shows, you get on TV, and then people know who you are, and then voila, you got a following. That doesn't happen anymore. I have friends that have been on late night shows over 20 times. They still can't fill out a comedy club. The business has changed towards you got to walk in already as your own business, approaching a comedy club, which is its own business, and saying, look, I have this many followers. and I have this. I have a big social media presence, and this is what I can offer you. Now, that takes time as well. But that's the new business operation. It's you coming in with a... So there are comedy clubs out there called B and C rooms that still allow comics that have no name or no drop, but that your time is limited. Example, I play a club in the South. 15 years ago, I was the opener. 15 years later, I'm the headliner. Now the headliner 15 years ago is now an MC at best. He'll do maybe 1 or 2 weeks a month as an MC, which is less than 3/4 your pay. He said, "What happened?" I go, "What do you mean? Remember I used to headline this place? Yeah. Now you're a headliner. Yeah. And now I don't get to headline. I'm 60 years old. What the fuck? What do I do?" And I go, "Do you know anybody your age that still headlines?" So yeah, but they have a following. They were on radio, they have a podcast, they had a TV show, they had a commercial, they did a movie. Whatever they did, they bring 50 extra people a night. I go, well, that's what happens. Nobody wants to come to see. Look, if you're a club owner and you have a choice between booking a 60-year-old comedian or a 25 to 30-year-old comedian, and you both do a great job, both of you are not famous, they're going to pick the young because of longevity. They need to keep the younger comics that grow with them and then discharge them until when they're 55 to 60. Unless if they have a following. If they have a following, it doesn't matter anymore. You break the mold. You're saying, look, I got this. That's how you compete with the younger, better looking comedian, right? Now, if you're famous, it's fine. So what is the business model? Come in the comedy club after your 5 to 10 years of working as a feature and an MC and say, this is what I can offer, right? Because that's what's going to sell tickets. That's what's that new motto is. We can't bring people that, are over a certain age that doesn't have a following, because if nobody is famous, they're going to have to pick someone that can last longer in 10, 15 years and build their following, or at least be presentable that way. And just don't get me wrong, there's people that are 60 and 55 to 60 that are still playing clubs, but it's very far and few if they're not famous. Very far and few. You have to be super, super, super funny and super loved by the owner. Chances are that's not, even if that, it's still not work. Now that's the business side. Now let's look at the talent side, the art side, the show side. If you're going to start comedy right now, you got to put in a lot of work. And the work outside of the business part as your art is, okay, some people are like, I'm just going to do a few shows a week. No, you got to do at least 5 shows a week. I have friends. When I started, I was doing 2 shows a night for every night of the month. So I was doing 60 shows a month, right? And I know people that do more than that. I know people that do 100 shows a month. They're from New York City. New Yorkers in their first 10 years. I talked to Orny Adams, Godfrey. Their first 10 years, they're doing 5 shows a night easily because they're all across the street from each other.
Yep.
You don't have to drive like in LA. LA to do 2 spots is an hour and a half to 2 hours apart sometimes.
Yes.
With the traffic, right? So if someone's in a small town, if someone is in another state, if someone's in another country, and they're like, well, I'll do it like once a week, once every 2 weeks. I go, you know who you're competing against? Somebody that's doing 5 times a week, a day. And what's the difference? You'll see the difference. You just know who constantly performs. When nobody is famous and nobody's headlining, and you're doing 5 to 10 minutes a spot, and there's 6 to 8 comics on the show, you know who goes up a lot. It's just a sound. It's just a feeling, It's just a rhythm of their voice. There's a difference between a president's speech than a regular person's speech. Why is that? Because they're professional. There's a difference between an open micer and a professional the way they speak on stage. There's a difference between someone that's doing it 5 times a night compared to 1 time a month. The speech is different. It doesn't matter about the laugh level. It doesn't matter about if they're killing or whatever. You just know by the way they speak, they've been on there a lot. That's why the presidents have to be great speakers to win these jobs. And I don't care about the politics, but if they're great speakers, they win half the battle because people want to see a professional. People want to see a leader. And there's no difference between a performer. The audience wants to see a professional and wants to see a leader. Why are they gathering there with another 200 people, 100 people to see one person? Not to see a follower. They're not there to see a weak person. They need to see a strong person. And the only people that can stand out that way is a person that goes up a lot a week, right? So you got to go up a lot, right? And don't keep changing your material. You have to, 5 minutes is all you need to get out, to get into any comedy club in the world. I was told this by a club manager one time when I first started. If you only have 5 minutes, that's all you need to get into any comedy club in the world. I go, why? Because showcases are not much longer than 5. You can't listen to 30 minutes each person. So my first year of comedy, I practiced only 5 minutes. Whatever worked, I kept. Whatever didn't work, I put on the show. After 1 year, I had this killer 5 minutes. Russell Peters was one of my first friends in comedy, so he lived in Toronto with me. He said, I'm going to bring you to the comedy club. Nobody knew who Russell was. He was only 9 years in. He's like, hey, Mark Breslin, who's the owner of the comedy clubs in Yuck Yucks, you got to see this kid. Mark saw me. The first thing he said was, I'm promoting you, so now you're working as a comedian. I could tell you've been on the stage a lot, even for your first year or so. And so next week, I booked you as a feature, which is 20 minutes. I said, fuck. I didn't tell him that I only had 5. Because that's all I worked on. So when I did the show, I tried to go as long as I could. It maybe hit 8 minutes. I got off the stage, the MC ran and goes, what the fuck did you do? And then he finished the show and brought the headliner up. And then the manager calls Mark Breslin. He's like, hey, Mark, yeah, did you promote this guy, Ron Josol? He's like, yeah. He only did 8 minutes on stage. Put him on speaker. Hey, Ron. I go, yeah. Why did you do only 8 minutes? Because I only have 5. You told me I can get to any comedy club if I only had 5 minutes. And they're like, well, you're right. You got in. So guess what? You don't leave the stage until you hit 20 minutes for 6 months. And after 6 months, I'm going to watch you again. If you could do well in 20 minutes, then you stay. If you can't, then I'm kicking you out. In 6 months, I probably never wrote more than that in my life. In 6 months, I wrote 15 extra minutes. I killed. He says, that's all it takes. You just gotta go on bomb. And the middle spot's important for people of development. A lot of people try to kill the headliner. No, you're trying to create more material to become a headliner. So a lot of new comics go, I just do what I want. Fine, do what you want. Hopefully, doing what you want is exactly what the industry needs at that time. It may work one year. It may not work every year. But what works every year is 5 minutes that kills. And to practice 5 minutes that kill, you just keep doing the stuff that kills and doing this and take out the stuff that doesn't. Your 5 minutes is your calling card, and it is your movie to your trailer. It is your trailer to your movie. And that's the advice I can give new comics from the business point of view and also the artistic point of view.
I love it. That's awesome. Awesome information. I can see why you and Jimmy Earl are good friends, because you both can talk and you explain things so well, and you're both so humble.
Oh, man. Jimmy is one of my closest friends. I love that guy.
Yeah. He blows my mind how humble he is, you know?
Yeah. I wonder if it's a Filipino trait. And then when I look at Joe Coy, I'm like, okay, it's not a Filipino trait.
It's also not a Jew trait. I'll tell you that. Well, you've been on, what was it like going on late night shows and Laughs Unlimited and all that?
I mean, the Carson Daly show, and they're not. I mean, I've done some late night shows in Canada and overseas, right? But I haven't did a Letterman, and I haven't did a Conan, which one day hopefully I can get any of the late night shows It's just you have to be in the city to constantly showcase for these. If you travel a lot, it's really hard to get on these shows because nobody gets to see you. You make money on the road, but the catch-22 is you miss out on the industry stuff. Now you stay in the city, LA, New York. The catch-22 is you will showcase for the industry. Eventually, your name is next, but you're not making money in the city unless you have some kind of income that is from a podcast or like if you live in the city in New York or LA, you're not making a lot of money. You can't. It's impossible unless you're a star.
I agree.
Right? So there's a catch-22. So what do?
I did 25 shows there in 3 months, and I made $50.
See, that's the problem. You know, even I'm part. I do Laugh Factory, the Improv, Comedy Magic Club, the Ice House, and the store sometimes. But all those other clubs, they pay you from $50 to $75 a spot, or $12 or $25 a spot. So, you know, that's the gas money that you spend, and maybe dinner, which is great. You're not buying dinner every night, and you're not paying for gas, but you still need money for rent, and you still have money for the rest of your bills. You got to go on the road for a couple of weeks to make some money, and then go back and showcase and burn that money. You know, you could do it monthly or weekly or bi-weekly, but there's the trend. That's the thing that's hard. Unless you want to live in the city full time, you're gonna have to live with 4 other comedians, make some money through XM radio, and so your bills are only $1,000 a month. But the quality of life that you live that has after 30, nobody wants roommates.
That's true.
You know, under 30, you could do it. Under 30, if you're young, live with 4 people. You know, have your rent $400 a month. Eat a cup of noodle soups. Have a slice of pizza for dinner. You can do it. At 30, every decade that passes, your quality of life changes. And you want a nice bed. You want to be alone. You want to be able to buy the clothes, the food that you like. So from 20 to 30, put it all out on the table. Those 10 years is going to make the difference between living a comfortable life after that or living the harder life at 30 to 50. So I think if you started in your 20, by 30, just put it all out there. You have the energy. You're able to take mental, emotional stress through your relationships and stuff. And you could sleep on a floor. You can use a hammer as a pillow. You know, your body does not keep up that way. Your body needs comfort. Your mind needs comfort. The volume needs to be lower. Everything has to be more clear because your eyesight sucks. So just put it out all on the table under 20. From 20 to 30, you have nothing to lose. If you just follow this advice for 10 years, I'm 100% sure you'll be making money for the rest of your life. Famous or not, go up every night, right? And practice that 5 minutes. Mm-hmm. And in 10 years, you know, you'll see what happens. You're going to start, your 5 minutes always changes, but you always work on 2 things, your hour and your 5. The 2 things in life, in comedy. Your 5 minutes is your showcase to get into clubs, festivals, TV shows, late night shows, and your hour is to get paid as a full-time working comedian.
Nice. So you've traveled around the entire world, Ron. What country is your favorite and why?
Well, USA is definitely my favorite. That's why I moved here. Because I make money around the world, I get a choice to live anywhere I want. So I could have lived in the UK. I remember meeting this girl in Norway, and I started dating her. And then eventually I was like, I could just live in Norway. Because my money is basically the world. So I would travel to a show and sometimes it's just the weekend. They're like, hey, we need you for a weekend in Sweden. I'll go for the weekend and come back. You pay for the ticket, pay for my hotel, give my money. So sometimes I'll be away for 4 or 5 days, but it's another country. I could just say, I want to live in Norway, but Norway is one of the nicest places I've been. Abu Dhabi is beautiful. Dubai is crazy. It's like Hollywood. It's rich, but Abu Dhabi is just like, it's just beautiful.
Is
I don't know.
Is it like a little?
So many,
Is Abu Dhabi like Kona, Hawaii, where?
no, I like Kona. Abu Dhabi is like, it's like a movie set in the Middle East. It looks like a movie set where it's like it looks like the riches, because it's richer. It's a richer. I don't know if they're states or provinces, but it's richer than in Dubai, because the ruler of Abu Dhabi gives money to Dubai to do whatever they want. It's kind of like Dubai is their spoiled brat teenager, right?
That's funny.
So they do crazy stuff in Dubai to make it look just insanely out of the world. But then when you go to Abu Dhabi, it's like you look like you're a prince. Like you feel like a princess. It's just, there's outdoor air conditioning. Like it feels like you're in a palace everywhere you go.
Wow. Have you ever gone where there's been fighting, like the Middle East, like Jordan, Israel, all of them places?
Here's the crazy thing about that. Normally we know like certain countries, Muslims, Israel doesn't get along and whatever. But when they come to the comedy show, they all get along.
What?
Yeah. Russell Peters makes them hug each other in this.
He should get a Nobel Peace Prize.
Well, his comedy is used to teach anti-racism
What?
in the Middle East.
What?
Yeah. But people don't know the extent of what he's done. A lot of people go, well, he's not like this and he's not like Kevin Hart. You don't know what he's done. He basically connected comedy to countries that never had comedy in stand-up form. And he's also diminishing the racism out there.
I'm going to go watch Russell Peters. I've heard his name and never heard a thing he's said.
Yeah, and he's part of the ecosystem in comedy. Without him, it wouldn't have been around the world as much. It wouldn't have been in Asia. It wouldn't have been in the Middle East. It wouldn't have been in India. It wouldn't have been in some parts of Europe. So he's a very important part of history.
Wow.
Yeah. So it goes further than his comedy. It's like Muhammad Ali. I don't want to compare the two at all, but Muhammad Ali's boxing was good, but his heart and what he stood for was better.
Yes.
Muhammad Ali wasn't known as a great technician, but he was great. He was known as had the hugest heart and a person that would fight until he died for you.
Wow.
And technically he wasn't great. He wasn't a great blocker. He wasn't a great body puncher. He only punched to the head, and he didn't use his arms to block, but his speed. And when his speed diminished, he took the headshots, and that's how he died, basically, with all the trauma to the brain that gave him Parkinson's. But his legacy is because he fought for the rights of minorities at the time.
So my dad was a boxing promoter in Portland, Oregon in the 60s.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
He must have known all the great boxers.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh man. I would love to meet him and talk to him.
My dad was like the white Jewish Don King of Portland, Oregon.
That's amazing. He must have been an eccentric person.
Very. Holy crap, yes.
You couldn't do that job without being smart, street smart, and he had to really work on his what he had to use outside of a 9-to-5 job is your intuition.
Yeah.
Because that's the only thing that kind of drives you when you have your own job. When you work in a 9-to-5, your intuition is not as high because you're following rules and regulations and stuff. But when you're on your own, like your dad or comedians or people that have their own businesses, it's your intuition that has to, I guess, lead you.
Yes. My dad played soccer in the Oberschule in like high school equivalent in Germany. But then in 1938, Hitler said, you can't play soccer. You have to wear this J on your arm. And so,
oh my God.
So guess what my dad did until the day he died in 2007?
What?
Played hacky sack in grocery parking lots with teenagers.
That's amazing.
My dad, he was crazy.
he is awesome, man.
Yeah, I got article after article about what he brought Olympic handball back into the Olympics after it was out for 30 some years.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I got the article. I could dig it up if you want to see it.
Yeah, if you could send it to me, I would like to read it.
Yeah, I'll write it down. Came out of Salt Lake City for a Jew. The Salt Lake City Mormons published it.
Oh my God, that's hilarious.
There's so much irony in life if you just live long enough.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what? That's the thing. I love talking to people over the age of 60 because they teach me things.
Yeah. I'm 69.
A lot of people don't realize that the information and the wisdom that older people have. Here's the problem with being so visual. You judge right away. So when someone doesn't look like a person that you want to talk to, doesn't mean they don't have anything to offer. And sometimes when you see older people, I think Judge Judy said it the best because I love Judge Judy.
Me too.
She's like, we older people lose their looks. That's what happens. You get uglier, you stink more, your body doesn't perform anymore. But what God does, or what life does, is it gives you more information and you become smarter. Your wisdom level is out of the roof. It just keeps getting more and more and more. So you young people who think you can fool me, don't even try, because if we didn't have any looks involved and it was just, if we looked how our minds looked, I'd be the most beautiful person you've ever seen.
I do a whole bit on stage about how you get ignored when you're a certain age, and like how I'm trying to learn all the things young people know about, mostly just to blow their minds, because, not only is it funny to me that I know their things, but it's funny to them that I even give a rip to know Instagram, Snapchat, whatever.
Right.
So
well, those are the things that we can learn from them. Like they know the Instagram, they know the Snapchat, they know how to put videos out, they know what people are looking for, the TikToks. We use them to update us. They use us to learn, to get wisdom off us. So, but if you understand that give and take relationship, I think that there's room for that kind of relationship and friendship. So, like an example, Norm Macdonald, who originally is from Toronto, who was from Yuck Yucks Comedy Club, would go down to amateur nights. And they go, why do you go down to amateur nights so much? He's like, because their premises are the best. He's like, what do you mean? They're up to date in pop culture. We're not. So they're not good in writing a joke yet, and they're not good at punchlines, but they're amazing in premises. Now what they should do is watch the pros, because they are not good at punchlines, and they're not good at formula. So they should learn from us. And the sad part is, a lot of the younger comics don't watch the pro shows enough. Because they have to learn how to write a joke and punch. Because a lot of the alternative and independent scenes and these alt comics are getting away with stuff that's not going to work if you travel or blow up or be on TV. What is that? A lot of them, like to do scenario-driven material that doesn't have a punchline because they think punchlines are hacky. But what's going to happen is everybody's a punchline that's doing well. A punchline is inevitable in comedy. Whether your punchline is visual, anecdotal, by energy, or by... There is a punchline there, but you can't... you kind of have to learn from a veteran. Because if you look at any young comedian right now that's doing well, they have the punchlines. And if you look at the majority of 80% of independent comics that are not really doing well, they don't really have the punchline, but they have the look, the swag, the clothes, the attitude. But that doesn't work across the board. What you think is cool in your city, it may not be cool in another city. So you need the punchline to make sure it's anchored.
I did jokes in Portland, Oregon at Harvey's, and I'd get no respect. I was worse than Rodney Dangerfield on his worst day of his life. I take the same material to Vegas, and I'm killing.
Yeah, of course. Vegas is... Every two people are from a different state, country, or city, right? So you have to make it universal, right? And if you're too into if the club or the comedy venue is so local, it's only good for that city.
Got it.
You know,
that makes total
right?
sense.
It's kind of like, sorry.
No, that makes total sense to me.
Yeah. It's like there's a comedy club. I grew up in a part of Toronto called Scarborough. And it's kind of like the urban area. And we do a lot of shows in Scarborough with all the bars and the venues and birthday parties or whatever. Now, when I started doing comedy 24 years ago there, I was like, how come it's not working 4 hours away? And I was like, because the reference is different, and also your style is too Scarborough. You're acting like everybody's from Scarborough, and they're not. You know.
Yeah.
So what happens is when you leave Portland and you leave where the city you're from and your alternative or venue, you have to learn to tweak your stuff, and sometimes you got to constantly play these rooms. And you have to constantly play the road because the road allows you to make your material universal, and the small rooms allows you to connect with the youth and what's cool, what's hot, and what's hip. But if you don't use both, you're only good for the road or you're going to the city. But you need both. You need the road and the city to make sure your shit blends from A to Z. You know, you got to be able to do both.
Wow. You've been so awesome. The financial hit because of the shutdown, has that affected you to a great degree? And are you accepting Cash App or PayPal or anything?
Yeah. So the shows, there's a few shows I do online once a week. One is the roundtable show called The Minority Report. So, you know, out of all, we have 300 viewers. They pay anything from $1 to $20. Okay. And that money is divided to 6 comics. Now, I do Asian shows that are based in LA that have a big following. I do that once every 2 weeks. And they have 5 comics. Everybody does 7 to 10 minutes. And the community does support a lot. So you can make, you know, $200 a week on that. You know, so it's not a lot, but, you know.
Where do people find out about your shows so they can watch them?
Check me out on everything will be promoted on my Facebook and my IG, which is Ron Josol for Facebook, and Ron Josol, the number 1, like 1 right after, and in Instagram at Ron Josol, RONJOSOL, and the number 1 right after my name.
On Instagram?
Yeah.
Okay. Wonderful.
And you'll see my whole schedule, the online schedule. But yeah, for sure, the pandemic. I came back to LA from touring on March the 9th. So I was out doing shows every night until Sunday. And then that Sunday, we were asked to all be quarantined, to quarantine ourselves for 2 weeks. And then after that, stay indoors for another month. April, I had like $8,000 that I was supposed to make, so that's gone. The last week of March was supposed to be at least $3,000, so that's gone. So I'm already out $11,000. And I would do a cruise once a week. I would do a club once a week, and then I would stay in LA 2 weeks of the month. So that was my normal routine. Make some money through cruises, which I don't really like, but you make great money out of that. You make $3,000 to $4,000 a week. And then a comedy club would give you anything from $1,500 to $2,000. And then I would make money in XM radio. Every month I would make $1,000 to a couple grand. So I had two, and that took a long time to figure out, because you want to be on the road doing the market. You want to be able to be on the road. Then you got to also be in the city for at least 2 weeks to audition and do the smaller clubs to learn from the youth. And then a week a month is the big money drop of like, if a corporate or cruise or college, those pay the biggest. So you find your triple C comedy clubs or cruises, colleges or corporates, and that pays for the most of the month. So I had that down. So now I'm at zero. So I have enough to save for. I have enough savings I've collected to last me a year or so, maybe a bit over a year. But what's cool about Canada is as soon as this pandemic happened, they said, call this number and you will receive $2,000 a month until the pandemic's over. And that's everybody.
Wow. Well, if somebody wants to donate to you, do you have a Venmo, Cash App, or that you give out?
Yes. My Venmo would be Ron Josol, RONJOSOL. That would be for Venmo or PayPal. So both have the same name.
Okay. Perfect. Well, you've been so awesome to spend 48 minutes of your life on here with us, with me.
Thanks so much, Linda. It felt like a minute.
I loved it. You're so fabulous. And you're a teacher by heart. Thank you so much. I'm the one that's getting blessed by this.
Oh, I am too, believe me. It's really a pleasure meeting you. And I'd love to do some shows with you in the future. Me, you, and Jimmy Earl to go out and go to a nice Jewish deli.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's Jew up the city.
Oh, please.
Okay, thank you so much, Ron.
No problem. Thank you, Linda.
Thank you, bye. That was so awesome, Ron.